Hello and welcome to Manila Storytellers. I'm your host, D. Canapi. So today we're going to be talking about Pinoy cuisine. We're talking about how this cuisine has started creating its own international niche, and we're going to talk about how what the scene is like locally and what can we do to elevate it to the next level. And to help facilitate that, my guest for today is a chef who comes from Mabini's Mabini State in Malate. And lately, because of quarantine, he's been doing his own home-based online business called Chef Mikey's. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Chef Mikey Del Rosario. So I'm here now with Chef Mikey Del Rosario of Mabini's and Chef Mikey's. Kamusta, Mikey? How are you? How's
Everything's
quarantine
good.
dealing with you?
Quarantine has, it's been dealing, obviously, the way it's dealt with the millions of other people. No, we're kind of shell shocked and quarantined out a little bit, but we're making the most out of everything.
Okay. So, yun. We basically the number one reason that I've invited you here because I really wanted to talk to a chef that's been dealing with Filipino food. I mean, food scene in Manila, I mean, it's fantastic. There's so many options, but I don't see too many players doing wonders on the as far as Filipino cuisine is concerned. And I've always maintained that you were one of those. So
Mhm, mhm.
your take on it is how does the Filipino food scene look from where you're standing?
Right. Recently, no, there's basically kasi there's like uh, parang to put it bluntly, two kinds of Filipino restaurants that have been popping up and have always been there. No, up until lately, it's always been just your parang homegrown kind of cooking. Na what your mom would cook and what your grandmother would cook and like mga street food ganyan. And that's always been the food scene in the Philippines and even abroad. No, parang the people abroad, yung mga restaurants that they put up are parang they're not very
Polished?
high end.
Okay.
High end. Oo, parang it's just basically catered to the Filipino people, no? And then all of a sudden, within the past siguro mga 5 years, these mga restaurants that have elevated the cuisine started popping up. Restaurants like Toyo, and then that restaurant in, I think it's called Hapag in QC, that do mga parang modern take on Filipino food. So parang slowly but surely, it's starting to get there, man. It's slowly inching its way into the global scene. Not as fast as we would want, but it's getting there. There are steps.
Okay. So, but the weird thing is, kasi, and you mentioned this a little earlier, that there's still time there are two basic avenues for Filipino cuisine. There's the one that's comfortable, home based, the best adobo that your mom cooked, and there's this one that's medyo polished, high end, nag-start maging experimental.
Right.
Do we have a middle ground already? Do we have something standardized at this point, or are we
Well,
still gasping with you?
no. The middle ground would be actually one of our restaurants, like Mabini's that you said,
Mm.
which does a little bit of parang playful takes on classics. It's not super experimental, gastronomical, parang foam and all of these things, which is being done now also. And it's also not yung mga parang typical karinderya style food.
Mm.
I would say that our food in Mabini's before was parang mga a little bit of a middle ground between those two with regards to parang we do playful takes and parang we combine ingredients that don't normally would go together and we would put them together. And it's not just Mabini's that's doing this. It's also like the likes of mga Manam, and all of these other restaurants that are now doing it. Medyo mas modern ng konti than your homegrown food.
Okay. I think the title of this particular talk is Gatekeepers and Trailblazers. Because I think, personal opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that there's a need for Filipino cuisine to both have people protecting the old styles, the traditional styles, and putting it pen to paper, so to speak. And there's also a need for the cuisine to adapt, especially if it goes international na talaga, as we've seen in the
Of
States.
course. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
where do you think we are in that conversation?
Well, okay, this is a tricky question, no? Because I really think for Filipino food to truly go global, there's a lot of hurdles that have to be overcome, no?
Okay.
But parang as of now, kasi everyone's pretty much just a gatekeeper, no? Parang they just kind of stick to their own lane,
Okay.
stick to their own parang passions and their own recipes, no? But not a lot of people really look forward, especially abroad, no? Filipino food in the Philippines is of course huge,
Of course.
no? But did you know that parang there was a study a few years ago ranking international cuisines around the world?
Yes.
And I think they had 25,000 participants
Yep.
Across the world. And parang the Philippines was one of the last. Parang they really didn't like it. Not many people know about it. Not many people like the cuisine. No, I think we were very popular in Australia. I feel it said na parang it was the only place where it was kind of medyo known, but other than that, wala masyado. But I guess the question is why? No, why is that so? Kasi masarap naman, 'di ba? You and me, we both love Filipino food. It's great. 'Di ba?
We
So
love Filipino food.
so parang I think one of the hurdles is well, Filipino ingredients are kind of, I guess, hard to come by abroad. No, mahirap eh. I do honestly feel like, I mean, I've cooked Filipino food also abroad, and the ingredients that I get, parang they feel too clean almost.
Oh.
Parang masyado siyang malinis, no? Parang everything's so polished. The eggplants look so nice.
Okay. Kasi
Just
I remember,
taste the same.
I remember kasi my mom had that experience before that she tried to cook her version of adobo in the States. And the flavor was not exactly right because the soy sauce available in the States was not the same. Was not similar to Filipino soy sauce, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yun. Ito pa, one other, I was watching a couple of videos of Filipino restaurants in the States that are doing well. There are a couple of those videos on Eater, among other places. One thing I noticed was that when they say that they make sinigang, they use rhubarb. I don't even know what that tastes. Diba? I can't even fathom sinigang that's not what they call this. That's not sampalok, or it's not, diba? It's not kung ano man yung mga ginagamit nating saying agents dito. But technically, since rhubarb is a saying agent, it passes. But I can't picture it. I wonder what the experience is dun eh. I wonder, is that...
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm just thinking, is that more of... I was just really thinking about what you said about some of the ingredients not available to the US, if that has something to do with it. Do you think it's also familiarity with the food? It's not as popular as Chinese food, not even as popular as Thai or Vietnamese cuisine.
Far.
Layo pa.
Oh, malayo talaga. It's a long way to go. And I guess one of the ways of another problem I feel of Filipino food in general is that we are such a parang as a country, we're kalat. Kasi we're archipelago, di ba? There's
Yes.
islands here and there, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, we're separated by water. So parang the cohesiveness of the food is not there. It's very hard for me, for you, to define Filipino food in one sentence.
Ay,
Diba?
hirap.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's impossible. Kasi there's too many things going on. If you go to the south a little bit, you have mga spicy foods, mga Bicol Express, you have your mga Kapampangan food and all of these things. If you go super south, it's completely different also. So parang there's way too many factions for you to be able to say this is Filipino food. Unlike, let's say, Italian, diba? It's obviously mostly tomato-based. Pizza, spaghetti, all of these things. Diba? Chinese food, it's mga fried fish and herbs and spices. But with Filipino food, ibang-iba eh. So that's really, for me, a big hindrance in terms of going global. Kasi it's so hard to define, and it's parang everyone's kind of trying to do their own thing, but there's not one thing that would define it and put it in a pigeonhole together with Italian and French and Chinese and Thai. Diba? Mahirap eh. It's really so many things.
Yeah, sobrang agree ako with that eh. Kasi something as simple as you can't even say na, okay, just serve adobo and sinigang and
Diba?
Nako, because just go, depends on where in the country you are. Ibang-iba yung mga yan.
Diba? A lot of people, I would have guests over sometimes in the restaurant, and then they would order adobo, tas I put down the adobo, and then there's so many comments, diba? Parang, ay, bakit ganyan? It's too saucy. Ay, bakit walang gata? Ay, mas masarap yung dilaw na may turmeric, na parang, there's just too many versions. It's a popular saying, diba, na parang, no two adobos are exactly the same.
Ay, wala.
It's all different.
And then ako, mas gusto ko yung isang saying eh. Where can you find the best adobo? In your mom's house.
That's right. It's always like that.
It's always like that eh. It's always the adobo that you grew up with eh. Wait, you mentioned adobong dilaw?
Yeah.
Saan yan?
Adobong dilaw is basically adobo sa gata with turmeric.
Wow!
Yeah.
Oh my God, I've never heard of that. And that.
Yeah, man, it's good. It's good. It has some ginger, some turmeric, some onions, diba? Tapos, and it's colored a little bit with achuete also. So it's I'm not sure where that's from. Parang, I don't know. I don't want to say anything. I'm not sure of my facts, diba? But I've seen it done. I've tasted it. It's delicious.
Sounds like, ako nanguhula lang ako dito. Sounds like something... Yeah, it sounds Visayan eh. Okay, we're just guessing ha. We're not pretending. Yeah. I am not pretending to know this dish. So, nobody hit me up in the comments, please.
Ang hirap na, baka may mga bastards dyan, no? Ay,
we're not pretending. We're not pretending. That's why we're talking about pucha. Let's start. Let's start the conversation. Eh. That's what I'm saying. Eh. Okay.
Correct.
Diba? At tapos, for example, I thought before, I was like, 2 years ago ko lang na-realize that sinigang is not even universally Filipino. That there are places that don't have sinigang. Or walang coach. Right. For example, Iloilo, parang they don't have sinigang and they use batuan as a sign agent, but those are totally different dishes. So ako talagang, okay, we can't even agree on a recipe. Huh?
Where are you even gonna find batuan, diba? It's pretty much grown in one part of the Philippines.
Yeah.
More so, how are you gonna get that anywhere else? There's no way.
At saka, may batuan dito, but it's already parang sort of preserved. It's already parang binalatan na, nakalagay. Iba. Kasi, I mean, iba yung experience from biting into a fresh batuan that fell off at the, which I don't suggest. Right. Because, oh my God, ang weird na, grabe. But yun nga eh, so you feel that there's still a need for a little bit more gatekeeping, a little bit more documentation, and trying to agree on something. Can we? I mean, between 7,100 islands and everybody being, quote-unquote, an expert on, do you think that we'll ever get it together and agree on certain aspects? For example, of adobo. can we ever agree on a universal adobo dish kaya? Ever?
I feel like the way the Filipino people are, the mentality of the Filipinos, parang malabo. It's very hard to rally around a single cause.
Mm-mm.
More so, food. No,
Uh-huh.
but I'm not giving up hope.
Mm-mm.
Obviously, I feel like maybe in the future, Filipino food will get its due. Diba? I mean, people have written about it. People have tasted it. Anthony Bourdain loves it.
Mm-hmm.
Diba? And then there are a couple of trailblazers now from the US, which is what I was telling you this before, no?
Yeah.
Parang the Department of Tourism actually as a way to showcase Filipino food, invited some Phil-Am chefs to go from the United States, paid for their trip here, and
Mm.
took them on a 2-week journey across
Oh.
the Philippines to try the food, di ba? Oo, okay siya, dude, okay siya. And parang it's a good step kasi parang these guys are the ones that are going to really elevate the food and showcase it to the world. Because I mean, like it or not, the United States is actually one of the biggest players. No, if you make it in the United States, then pretty much you've made it everywhere.
Oh.
So parang for me, for them to come here and for them to experience the food firsthand and to see it being cooked. In fact, one of them went to Mabini's, I think last year, no, and then they had all of these food, and it was a good experience. They even went to Intramuros and everything. So parang it's a really good step because that's what we need. Of course, they're going to go back to the United States and
Mm.
use their rhubarb with their sinigang. Diba?
I can't even begin.
Yeah. Pero that's what you need, man. I mean, you need to be able to innovate. You need to be able to try new things. And I guess, but God damn, I hate that word fusion. But maybe
Yeah,
that's
I
the way to
understand.
go.
Ano tawag dito. But I kind of seeing it in the States, especially for those for the Filipinos who've set up restaurants. There's kind of they're kind of compromises. Like I saw this one place na parang, I forgot the name, but they're basically a rice bowl place that they do longganisas. But because the US is used to, you know, sausages being the German style, 6 inches really thick, yung ganon. So they make their longanisas in that manner.
Yeah.
So, like for example, and then rhubarb, and then for example in New York, you can't exactly make lechon because you can't have an open flame there. So they basically oven bake their lechon, and I'm wondering, can you actually make crispy lechon skin just putting it in an oven? So I guess ang daming compromises here and there.
Madami
So
talaga, dude. And another big compromise is that I guess, okay, let's go back. Let's go do a history lesson a little bit. No, um, the reason why in Canada they say Canada has the best Chinese food outside China.
oh,
Now, why is that? No, it's because there was a mass exodus of the Chinese before, where they had to leave their country and they migrated to Canada. And a lot of those guys were cooks and
mm,
chefs. So parang a lot of these people went to Canada and then they put up restaurants in Canada and made some of the best Chinese food. Now, consider the Philippines.
mm.
Now, no, when was the last mass exodus of the Philippines when a lot of people left the country?
Martial law, I'm guessing.
Yes,
Mm.
correct. Martial law during the dictatorship of the Marcos regime. Oh shit, I hate being political, dude, but that's really the time where a lot of people left. But the people that left at the time were not chefs or cooks. They weren't even businessmen, 'di ba? So parang the people that left were mga engineers. It's the typical Filipino, I guess, peg, or what do you call it, stereotype. No,
Right.
Filipinos really weren't weren't bred to be entrepreneurs. And you can tell that in school, di ba? Parang we're always pigeonholed into thinking we would be great employees. You work hard,
Yeah. Uh-oh.
you work hard, you get a good job, you stay in that job and you do well. But we were never taught, oh, you put up your own business, you do this, you do that, and you make your own money. That's not how we were raised there. And I think that's a big failing point in the Philippines now. We were just pretty much spoon-fed into thinking that we were employees all our lives. And that's what happened when we went abroad, when we migrated abroad. No? We became employees lang. And the people that wanted to to put up Filipino restaurants didn't do it well. Parang it wasn't run professionally. A lot of them went went bankrupt kasi parang they couldn't cost it properly. So parang that's a big hindrance, no? And I feel like perhaps in the next big exodus, I don't know when, I feel like maybe the people now are more woke, quote unquote, because I'm a cool Tito and I use woke.
Grabe.
Diba? I'm lit.
Wow. Anyway, yun.
Yeah, so hopefully we can get that good food out there without compromise. Madaming compromise but now I feel like we can do it properly with the tools that we have.
Okay. I guess let's talk local muna. Sige, let's park na international because obviously so much has to be done doon. Okay. Locally, I've always found it crazy that Manila itself does not have a food experience. Maliban dun sa food tour ni Ivan D. That's it.
Yeah.
But there are no culinary tours. There are no Filipino Food 101. There are no cooking demos. Which if you go to Thailand, if you go to China, if you go to any of these other countries, even the States, I'm pretty sure, you're always going to have that stuff. And yet we don't, the impression is we don't celebrate our cuisine in the same way. Am I off base in saying that or assuming that?
No. And again, this is a big part of Filipinos basically. We're mapride, no? Mapride tayong tao. We're very, very prideful as a race and as a country. We rally around celebrities who are even part Filipino.
Yes.
Diba? But when it comes to food, again, the problem is there's so many factions and facets of Filipino food that it's really to put together in a bundle and to talk about it just as a one cohesive thing. No, so ang hirap talaga. And I read somewhere also na parang it's because we were colonized by so many countries. As for the foreign listeners out there who don't know, the Philippines was colonized by Spain for over 300 years.
Minus
right?
20 months.
Right. And then the US also has colonized us. I think even China and Japan at some point for a little period of time.
China, not so much. Japan, 3 years. During World War II.
But China was a big part of us kasi we were part of their trade. No? They would pass the Philippines.
Oh.
So we got a lot of food items from China. Like our soy sauce.
Malakas ang influence ng China sa atin. The introduction
right.
The introduction of iron implements, introduction of soy sauce, noodles.
Pancit.
Pancit
is Chinese. It's a Chinese word.
The concept of stir fry, basically. Laking bagay din because we were, I'm not, again, not pretending to be an expert, but we basically came from a culture that was boiling food. Tapos, ayun, biglang yung introduce stir fry, laking bagay. So, I mean, so many of these elements.
Ang dami talaga, di ba? So it's almost like we were colonized by so many things that there was a little bit of parang culture shaming of sorts. And again, this is not my sentiments. I just read this. No, na parang Filipinos are kind of ashamed to put their food out there because of all of the colonization that's been happening, which is I feel like the wrong mentality. No,
So that.
I went to Cambodia a few years
Ay,
ago with my wife.
yeah.
And parang we had 1 day to kill before our flight. No, I think our flight was at night. It
Yeah.
was a midnight flight, one of those red eye
That
flights.
is okay.
Oo, di ba? So parang we had 1 whole day and we had to check out of the hotel na at a certain time. So we had that whole kind of thing where we didn't know what to do. So parang we went to the market and then my wife saw this sign na parang saying cooking classes, Cambodian cooking classes. So we were like,
Ooh. I've heard
so
of
parang
this.
we were just like, what is this? Diba? Parang, I don't know, it's probably not going to be any good, but we just tried it because we had time. And it was the best effing experience of our life, dude. It was great. They had a professional kitchen on top of a market, a wet market.
What?
Oh, so what they did was they first toured you through the market. You bought ingredients from the wet market. Galing, no? And then
Galing.
you brought your ingredients, brought it up to the kitchen where you had your teacher, and the teacher would cook Cambodian cuisine in front of you. And you all had a little setup. You all had parang cooking partners, and then you would cook together. And it was, for me, that was an eye-opener kasi we can totally do that. In fact, we've tried. There were talks with
Yes.
dam bikes in Intramuros to do that, diba? As part of their tour. You were part of this meet, diba? I told you about this.
Yes, you did, and we actually talked about it.
Yeah.
Then
You know,
COVID happened.
yeah, COVID happened. Wala
COVID
nangyari,
happened.
diba?
Ah.
So parang it's, man, I don't know, man. But you're right. You're right to say that there really is no culinary tour in Manila, which is a shame.
Maliban kay,
There's so
maliban
much.
kay Ivan D, let's just be clear, maliban sa
Oh
kanya.
yeah, correct. Yeah, maliban sa kanya, na parang wala, sayang lang. It's a missed opportunity. It's a niche that I feel like you can fill, that we can fill.
We can feel, yeah.
And we haven't yet. So maybe when this is over, we can start that.
Ako, one other thing, like you mentioned Cambodia. Ako, the attraction for me when I go to another country is to taste the food, particularly street food. I mean, it's unthinkable to go to some place like Penang or Bangkok and not eat at the streets, man. I mean, ibang experience, And yet, we do have that experience here, but it's not celebrated. Kung minsan, ikinakahiya pa ng mga ibang tao. I don't understand.
You know
but
what
I think
it
it's
is?
Sige, sorry.
Parang let's say you go to Malaysia and you go to Indonesia and you go to Singapore and all of these things. They actually have hawker stalls, like actual covered areas, designated areas for you to go to and eat. Na parang of just street food, basically, di ba? I'm sure you've been to a couple of those hawker stands, hawker centers.
Oh yeah.
So parang sa atin, parang again, it's such a, we put other cuisines on a pedestal too much to the point that if you go to a food court in a mall, maybe just 10% of that food is Filipino food. The rest would be, there's a lot of pasta, there's a lot of rice bowls, there's a lot of Chinese, Indian. Sayang because Filipino food is great, as you and I know, no? Pero parang a lot of times Filipinos prefer other cuisines. But why?
It's kahilaw I mean, even on the street level, parang I've had so many foreigners ask me where they can get Filipino street food. So I show them to some, diba? I show them to some places that I know are safe, but it doesn't look safe to them, and I can't blame them. Diba? I mean,
punta ka dun sa kanto ng ganyan na may nagbebenta, nag-iisaw dun.
Oh my God. Okay. So yung when I was first starting out Puesto and WanderManila, I had a couple of backpackers approached me and they were asking where can they get these 50 peso food meals. And I told them that they can go they can go down the middle of the hill street and they'll find places. But I cannot recommend that they do that because just go. But I
Walang
myself
ano,
but I myself have eaten there, but I to recommend. I'm scared, man.
I think the sanitation and the sanitary aspect is a big part of it then. No?
Uh-uh.
Sana kasi parang maybe we can enforce that somehow na there's some sort of like a sanitation code. And I'm sure there is.
I'm sure there
I'm
is.
sure there is. It's just not enforced. Because I'll be damned if I had 1 peso for every time I see a vendor drop food on the ground and put it back on their cart, or yung nagkakayod ng yelo dun sa sahig, 'di ba? So parang it's not very clean.
Again,
And
we're
as
not.
Filipinos, we're okay with that.
Yeah. I think,
I'm okay with that. I don't get sick.
well, we don't get sick. Pero, okay, I just want to, for those watching, we are not slamming kahinderya culture per se.
Oh no.
We're not.
Not
We
at all.
love
Not at
kahinderya.
all.
My God, Mike and I, honestly, we have how many kahinderya dates lined up na hindi pa natutuloy. Considering,
Oh no,
hindi
I
pa
love it.
natutuloy.
I
We
can
got-
safely say that 50% of my diet is karinderya diet. I love it. For me, it's the best. I would much rather eat in any karinderya than any high-faluting, high-fashion, foam-putting shit on my food. I'd rather go to Ang Ineng's and have a dirty barbecue and a halo-halo and scramble that's been shaved on the street. Honestly, that for me is the best comfort food, and it tastes really, really good. Maybe not so clean, but who cares?
Yeah. Okay, so again, just to be clear, we're not slamming it. We love the culture and we are fans of the culture and we eat in these places. And I have receipts, man. Silipin yung Facebook ko. We have, both of us have receipts. But, we can't, I mean, if you really wanna, I think lang, I don't know if I speak for you here, Mikey, but if you wanna elevate it and turn this into something that can be an addition, can be a good addition to our local tourism, we need to level it up a little bit, man. I mean, to get to the level of where Bangkok and Penang and Kuala Lumpur and I guess even Vietnam, Jakarta, as far as Southeast Asia is concerned, we have to clean up our act. There's so much that needs to
Of
be
course.
done. Diba?
Here's a question for you. You've heard of in Thailand this girl, this woman named si J Fai.
I'm not
You heard of
sure.
her?
I'm
Okay.
not sure. Sige.
She's this little old woman who has a little food, and she makes this
Wait,
really
Mikey,
wonderful
you need
crab
to
omelet.
repeat. Mikey, you need to repeat that you nag-freeze ka for a bit.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so which part
When you were starting the
Yeah.
kwento about Faye,
J5.
yeah,
J5.
J5.
Okay. So si J5 is this little old woman in Bangkok who has a little hole-in-the-wall restaurant that serves Thai street food. And she's known for her mga pad thai and her crab omelette, ganyan. And she's celebrated, no? If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure. She's gotten awards. I'm not sure if it's a Michelin for that. I'm not sure, again. But she's been highly rated amongst even professional chefs. So parang they have that. They've elevated that. And it's not even elevated Thai food. It's just really, really good Thai food, street food, no? What would you say is the equivalent of that here in the Philippines? Do we have somebody like J5?
Oh, on the street food level?
Yeah, street food level na parang,
Okay.
oh, kumain ka dyan kay Mang ganyan or something.
Ooh. I think we're at that point that let's assume that it's on the positive. I think we're still on the process of creating our culinary heroes on that level, honestly. Because we know specific karinderyas that we go to. for example, both of us absolutely love Paris Point in Makati, diba?
Oh, dude, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, ay, just go. So that's one. We have specific kahindes, but there's for a personality to be attached to the street food culture. I don't think we're there yet. I think the closest is Bangladesh is Isaw.
That's a good one.
That's a good one, diba?
Sa UP, di ba?
I mean, it's spread out already. It's kind of QC na at this point, not just UP.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I think that's the closest we have. But honestly,
Sino
parang,
pa ba?
diba,
What about Aling Lusing's? Aling Lusing's sisig.
well, I think you're in better position to talk about that. But at this point, parang they've gone beyond street food na? Or would you still consider aling using street food? Parang they seem to
Oh,
be a
yeah,
proper.
man. For me, Aling Lusing's is always going to be best eaten in her stall in near Clark, no?
Yeah.
In Pampanga. Sarap talaga.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
not Pampanga, sorry. It is in Pampanga.
It is from Pampanga.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, it's for me. You sit on those wooden benches. It's a great setup, diba? It's kind of low down, a little bit dirty, but it's great. It just tastes better that way.
Alam mo, funny you mentioned that this experience of it's better in the real Aling Lusings kesa dun sa Aling Lusings that you have in Manila. Like, for example, ito, Manukan Country in Bacolod City. Diba?
Right.
Have you been?
Right.
I'm
Yes,
sure
of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I am lucky to live in the same building as Aidas, one of the best inasal, chicken inasal in Manila.
Right.
But sorry, nothing beats the experience of eating in Aidas or the other places in Manukan Country. It's just different. It's ibang iba.
And again, it's a case of being, for me, too clean.
Ang social ng Aidas dito.
Masyadong malinis di ba?
Oo.
May aircon, you have your little chicken oil in those little packets, di ba?
May artwork! Artwork on the walls!
They present the food properly. Wala, I want my fucking chicken slap down on my plate with my rice, a little garlic, a little chili oil, chicken oil. Okay na ako doon. For me, that's the best.
And then order of oysters. Ay, pucha. Holy.
Oo, no? Magkano yan? By the dozen. You order it by the dozen.
Or something like that. It's like 60 pesos. And like, what?
Oh, so cheap. Sarap.
Ayun, no? Ito pa lang. Okay. Is Manukan County clean? No. Ay, pucha.
No.
I would, hands down, bring foreigners doon if I had the opportunity to do so. Kasi parang I know that the food will speak for itself because there's a certain quality we expect of the places doon. Like, pucha, if I've ever been given a choice dito to bring to tourist around Makati, ang dalinin for me. I'll bring them to the Lugawan sa Tejeros. I'd bring them to...
Yun.
Diba? I'd bring them to Paris Point because I know that the food is consistent doon. I think yun ang key in terms of street food and the Kahinde culture dito. Consistency.
Consistency is a good one. I think that's a good word for us to focus on in terms of street food. You just have to be consistently good.
Yeah.
And that's not something that happens all the time. Even fine dining restaurants struggle with that. But if you can be consistently good all the time, such as like Paris Point is consistently awesome, Lugawan sa Tejeros is consistently good, Aling Lusing is consistently good, then I feel like we can actually make better strides towards elevating street food as we know it.
Grabe. Ito na lang For example, for me, it's a missed opportunity doon that I think that they can fix quite easily is that, diba they cleaned up Intermos and they moved some of the food booths from near the BPI. They moved it to the parking lot near Manila Cathedral. So now they have a row of street food on. If they just cleaned it up ng konti, pretty it up, I swear to God, more foreigners would be going there.
Funny you should say that. The last time I was in Intramuros, I ate in that little alley.
I eat there all the time. And it's fine. Nothing beats a Filipino breakfast that you buy whatever protein you want. You buy eggs and you buy fried rice and it costs you less than $100. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
It's
$2.
hard to beat, man. But
yeah.
but it's hard to explain that it looks too ganji, and the food is honestly, some of those stalls, not inspiring. Eh. It doesn't look too attractive. Eh. Parang you're existing to provide a service, eh, not to put your best foot forward. For some of them.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's
Oo.
basically just to fulfill a need, which is to
Sustenance,
eat.
basically.
You're not there to dine. You're there to eat.
Oo. But
You're there to
imagine, no?
just put something in your stomach.
Grabe. Kasi, I think yun eh. I think yun yung kulang natin that us, we don't, Filipinos don't necessarily view our food in that way that everything is fantastic. Now, for example, if we have foreign guests dito, we bring them to a couple of bespoke restaurants. Man, I mean like Mabini's.
Right.
I have,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you have never failed me, man. You have never failed me.
Thank you.
But,
But given the chance,
uh,
I'm sure you, B, would take them to somewhere where they can find like a good balot, or a
ay,
good itaw, di ba? For
oh
me,
yeah.
I don't know why. Is it just us? Tayo lang ba yun na that we like to kind of, is it more of a fear factor thing than anything? What do you think?
No, my opinion kasi of that is that the reason that we have funky food, like balot, it's not purely Filipino. At the very least, I know the Vietnamese also have a version of a semi-fertilized duck egg. So that's one
Right.
thing. It's also our culture that we don't throw anything away. The reason sisig exists,
Right.
maybe not necessarily the aling lusing sisig, the sisig prior to that, was that you just needed to find a way to eat pig masks, pig mascaras and, lungs and other stuff that,
Right.
diba? Pork trotters, pucha, deep fry the living shit out of that pucha. Then you have crispy pata. And I think it's just our culture not to throw anything away. And then
Correct.
it's become something. Then I think it's transcended into something that's been part of our culinary DNA, like isaw, for example.
Oo, di ba? So you think it's not enough? It's not like, let's say, parang meron tayong guests from the States or from wherever, no?
Mm.
From abroad. What I would do is I would prepare a platter of mga exotic, I guess, exotic Filipino Filipino food. You would definitely have your balut there.
Of course.
You would have your isaw and your dinuguan, diba? All of these things. And I don't do it because it's like for me, parang I'm gonna see your reaction on how you when you eat it, diba? But for me, I'm proud. I'm proud of it. It tastes great. I want them to like it. And I think it's just a matter of, for me, I'm in love with Filipino food. I romanticize it to the point of.
I love your term. I love that term. Sobra. Okay. But continue.
Yeah, diba? You romanticize the food. I love it. For me, and if you give it to them and I'm proud of it, I want them to like it. I'm not going to give them something just because for shits and giggles and just to see if they'll squirm or not. It's not like that. I want them to like it. I want to convince them to try this aborted duck egg fetus thing with amniotic fluid inside. I want them to eat it and I want them to like it. And I feel bad if they don't. Diba? Parang for me,
but come on, man. I mean, not everybody's gonna like that. It's admittedly a little too much for certain.
yeah. Diba? It's a little bit too much, but I feel accomplished if I can get them to at least try it.
Yes.
To at least try it. Kasi for me, you have to. I'm a firm believer of trying everything at least once in your life.
True.
If you don't like it, don't
touch it anymore.
Don't try it again, diba? But I will eat anything at least once just to try it. I don't think I've eaten anything at least once. I have. I've tried Vegemite from Australia. I'll never eat that again, I think.
It works best with toast and butter, but yeah, it's
That's
not
what they
something.
say.
It's not something. It's not something that I'm going to jump in and order. And that's funny because I have a sister who lives in Sydney. I mean, if she feeling ko pag magsabi lang ako sa kanya, she'll send me bottles of it. I'm like, no, 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 okay lang tayo, okay lang tayo. Okay, but I love the term. I think more than anything else, we don't romanticize we don't romanticize our food enough. I mean, of
Right.
course, balikbayans will always wax sentimental about the food that they're not eating in the States. But it's kind of hard to port over that experience to foreign guests that don't have our memories, that don't have our set of experiences of living in this country and eating the food there. I think I think we've been a little I mean, sorry, shoot me down if I'm wrong. I think we've been a little selfish with the experience. But as long as it works for us, okay na. We're not
Mm-mm.
necessarily thinking how it looks to other cultures. Yeah, that sounds a
You're
little
probably
harsh though.
right.
But that sounds a
Oh, yeah,
little
but
harsh.
you know,
Yeah, okay.
I guess, 'di ba? But you mentioned something na parang they don't have our memories, which is
Mm-mm.
a good way of putting it also because a lot of Filipino food is based on nostalgia,
It's more of
'di ba?
soda.
It's like you said kanina, adobo is always best in your mom's house.
Yes.
Everything is just based on a lot of feelings involved when you eat it,
Mm-mm.
and it's hard to pass out feelings, diba? You can't make people feel something when they eat it. Um, so I don't know.
Mm-mm.
Uh, there was one time nga, B, no, I was trying to replicate my mom's pochero. No,
Oh,
and for some reason, I mean, I've made a lot of great meals in my life. I've put up restaurants left
yes.
and right.
Yes, you have.
But
Yes, you have.
I can never seem to replicate my mom's pochero. And I feel like the reason for that is that it's almost self-sabotage to
Mm.
in a way. Na I feel like I'm not even allowing myself to succeed in it because in my mind nothing will ever be as good as that. As good as my mom's pochero. So maybe there's something there in which parang Filipinos self-sabotage themselves
Mm-mm.
in terms of their food
Mm-mm.
because parang there's nothing will ever be as good as when you eat it at home.
Oh.
So
Yeah,
maybe
that
it's a good way of putting it, diba? Na parang maybe if you have guests and you want to romanticize the food, make them eat in your house or at least try to replicate the feeling of eating in your house.
in fact that's actually one of the best. I mean, some of my foreigner guests will always talk about that they've gone to so and so house and they prepared the banquet or they prepared dinner and they cook their family dishes and they had a rolling good time with it. I mean, yun, oo, I don't think, tayo as hosts, I think we've nailed that. We've nailed it so much. But making it easier and more accessible. For example, your typical backpacker na wala naman mga, alam mo yun, wala naman families na binibisita dito or something like that. It's a little harder
Right.
for them to jump into. And sometimes they just try something and if the experience is not optimal, then that's already the image of Filipino food that they have in their minds. Sayang
You're
because
right.
a lot of
Oh, you're
a lot of people here, maybe even locals, are missing out on a lot simply because they don't know what's out there. Sayang, sayang.
Yeah,
So, I
you're
don't know.
right.
I mean, admittedly, it's a bit presumptuous for us to start talking about the next bit. But now, what do you think? What else do you think we can do to kind of improve the situation?
Hmm.
Slightly
Ang hirap
presumptuous,
kasi. Ang
slightly
hirap.
presumptuous for a tour
Oo,
guide
ang
and a
hirap
chef
because
to talk about this. We're not pretending
like
to
I
be
said, no?
experts. Oo,
Uh, like I said, B, we love Filipino food so much.
oo.
And even if it's street food or highfalutin food or fine dining food, we love it. Any sort of like Filipino iterations out there, we will eat. No, so you and I are not really the people to who can actually say na parang this is what you should do and this is not we should do
Oo.
because we will eat anything basically.
Admittedly, yes.
Oo. But maybe based on if we were to recap our conversations from kanina, no?
Right.
I think standardizing something like let's say in Thailand, no, a tom yum would taste the same anywhere you
Yes.
are. A pad
Yes.
thai would taste the same anywhere you are. There's one way of
Yes.
making it,
Mm.
diba?
Mm.
So maybe standardizing it would be a good way to do it. Maybe another thing we can do is like adhere to a strict sanitation procedure
Mm.
that we could actually make street food more accessible to people who are not used to street food.
Mhm.
Diba?
Yeah.
But then again, that I'm shooting myself in the foot because every time I go to a fancy schmancy Filipino restaurant that serves me 200 peso fish balls, I want to kill them. Diba? Parang, why are you serving me 200 pesos squid balls and fish balls? I can get that across the street for 10 pesos.
Unless kayo yung gumawa ng fishball, isa-isa. Unless ikaw yung nagtagtad doon sa isda. Hindi na mo ng bilog. Unless ginawa mo.
Diba? Diba? So parang for me, it's almost like a double-edged sword. You can make it as clean as possible and as sanitary and adhere to strict standards and procedures and make it HACCP safe. But then you're also going to charge a lot for that. And you're basically alienating other people who would rather have it the old-fashioned way.
I think there might be a middle ground to that naman. Is that we're not asking naman for your food to be super sterile or anything like that to the point na it's expensive and pretentious na. But I think even just in the presentation of things, maybe even pride of place, or in this case, pride of food na lang. Like for example, if you're Kayendeya, and as long as you're proud of what you cook, and you're not just cooking so that you have something to feed the office workers, and so place. I mean, I guess pride of place, pride in what you cook, I think is going to go a long way. And again, we have both gone to places that are not necessarily pretty, but because the food speaks for itself, I think.
Right.
Ano pa ba? I do like something that Singapore does. Yung hawker centers nila actually have star ratings.
Diba? So, it's good.
Diba?
I've been wanting to do that here in Manila.
So
have ratings for restaurants, and like Australia has it. Diba? They have their what do you call it? Hats, I think is what you call it. How many hats do you have? 3 hats, 2 hats, 1 hat. So parang maybe we can do something like that here, where you can rate Filipino food. Just Filipino food, ha? I'm not talking even other cuisines. No?
Ako, I would simplify that pa ng konti. For example, if you can create like zones dito that you have your kind of, and they're not necessarily built for foreigners lang. Like anybody can eat there. But at least a guest that's not used to the scene here will go there, look at the rating, say, okay, I think I'm going to be fine here. So something like that. Maybe, but honestly, both of us are just shooting ideas in the air at this point. But
say
huh?
Right, correct.
Right, yeah. Well, it makes for a good conversation, honestly. And I think you and I agree on the fact that there's so much awesomeness in Filipino food. And if given the chance, we would definitely surprise people. But to be honest, there's a bit of an increased profile, at least in the States. There's been a bit more visibility with the cuisine there and in other places. But yeah, I think we kind of need to. I think we kind of need to push the envelope a little bit more and, get down to work. I guess. Ay nako. Is there anything else you want to add, man? Anything else you want to throw on the table?
No, man. I had a great time talking about Filipino food. Speaking of Paris, I just had that for lunch.
I hate you.
Except I made my own because I can't go to Paris Point right now because of the lockdown.
God,
and I don't want to get sick.
Just go back. How are you gonna compete with But I don't even think they turn off that pot. They turn off that pot yata every Sunday lang yata.
Correct. It keeps boiling. It keeps boiling.
Crazy. Flavor, man. Ay nako. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but like I said, I had Paris for lunch, and I was able to get my hands on some exotic ingredients like balls couple of beef penises.
Okay.
Yeah, man, a couple of eyeballs and brains. I put that all in there. It's really good. That's what
Yeah.
I like.
I have never had a beef penis ever, so I can't make a
Yeah,
comment.
man, you should
Everything
try it. I'll make for you.
ang weird. That's the weirdest statement ever, Mikey. But yeah, but I appreciate that. Anyway, okay, and I guess that wraps up this edition of Manila Stories with Chef Mikey Del Rosario. Mikey, last call na lang. If they wanna reach you, or they wanna order some of the, now is the time to plug yourself, man. Go for it.
Yeah, man. Look for me. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Mikey Del Rosario. My name should be somewhere there on your
Mhm.
screen. Shoot me a message. I make Filipino paellas, which is like a fusion of different Filipino foods
Right,
that I turn into rice dishes.
right.
I make homegrown kare-kare Filipino fare.
Yeah.
Shoot me up, man. I don't have a menu. I will never have a menu. But if it's true, I do this shit from my heart. I do this thing where I need to get inspired. So if you want something cooked, let me know. I'll cook it for you and I'll deliver it to you, man. Let me know.
Okay, and with that, this has been Manila Storytellers. I've been B. Canapi, and he's Mikey De Rosario. Thank you very much for tuning in, and see you all next week. Thank you very much for joining me, Mikey. Soba, had so much fun with this conversation. And okay, so for everybody else, if you enjoyed what you saw here, My Little Storytellers is going to run every Thursday at 5 p.m. Okay, we're going to premiere the episode, then it's going to go, then it's going to be loaded normally as a video. Okay, so if you want the latest on Manila Storytellers, please follow and like our Facebook and Instagram accounts. It's WanderManila. Manila Storytellers is also brought to you by Blender Media, and they've been our technical partners for this project. And so please hit them up on Facebook as well. Okay, with that out of the way, I have been your host, B. Canapi. This is Manila Storytellers signing off.